have the password for the YouTube?
I don't know. Take a look.
How many you don't?
So I believe the anchor local law
Supersedes that or augments it.
does supersede it, but it states that someone attending by can't count towards the quorum.
You cannot count.
Cannot, but there's a quorum here with with Carol.
Okay, 7:30.
All right, let's call the meeting to order.
So address me if they show up, I don't vote, but if they don't show up, I do.
And the way that the laws or regulations are written, you can, even without voting, you can be a full participant in asking questions, those kinds of things, so. Just one note on the agenda for tonight, after we do the old business, and we go to new business, which says, I do have a couple of things that I would like to go over with the group tonight, to get your feedback on it. I'll share those with you at the end. But first order of business is the minutes of the meeting. I am not going to comment on anything related to the new business with Shepherd, since I was I abstained from participating. So, anybody have any comments, corrections, otherwise? Can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
In a second.
All in favor? Aye.
Great, thank you. Correspondence, so, unless you know something else, the only correspondence I'm aware of is the.
Yeah, so I did schedule another training with Nam that will be via Zoom. I just spoke with her yesterday asking for the Zoom link because I had a couple of inquiries. She sent it today. So stay tuned for that. That'll be via Zoom prior to the December 1st planning board meeting. It'll be at 5 p.m. to approximately 6:45 or 7 p.m. And we will also be showing it on the screen. So if you want to come hang out, maybe attend the planning board meeting, have some pizza, soda, salad.
In other words, free meals. So.
Yeah.
Everybody was in the class.
Are we up to date on our?
You're gonna give us a date for that when you get it.
That's the date is December 1st. I'll send out the Zoom link in the next day or two.
Okay, well, we can come here the first to do it and watch it on the screen.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
And the subject of the training is going to be ag and markets and the intersection of ag and markets and local zoning law, which was requested by Steve, and then it'll be followed by approximately an hour Q&A. So any questions that you have about the process or for Van generally, it'll be a great time. But
Yeah. I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I think you at one point had brought it up too.
I think we had a discussion.
So, okay.
I'm glad you did it because I was gonna get the ag and markets and see if they had anybody.
Well, thank Jay, he was the one who set it up, so. All right, any other correspondence? Has everyone had a chance to, and you may not, because you just got in your email today, but to see the letter from the.
I did see that.
Okay, all right. Well, let me do the conflicts check then, and I'm going to recuse myself from this next part of the discussion until the public hearing portion of this discussion is over.
Okay, I guess our public hearing is still open from last meeting. Okay, is there any questions or comments from anybody on the public hearing?
I'm glad, my comment is I'm glad to see the actual survey. It really made things very clear.
I guess we don't have anybody in the audience or on Zoom that wants to comment.
No, I read the document from the planning board and it looked fine, looked good.
Could you state your name, please?
Will Lutz.
Oh, didn't sound like it.
Yeah, I'm not sounding like myself lately. Yeah.
I was like, we might have to put the pillow over your head.
Well, I don't, I'm okay, but I don't like being around people when I'm sick. I don't like it when they're sick and around me, and I don't like doing it to other people.
Okay, awesome. Well, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, it's, just taking its process,
Yep. Okay. So I guess if we don't have any other comments from anybody else, I guess, we will go to the environmental assessment form.
Short form.
Can you
Sure.
motion and second and vote to close the public hearing?
Oh, you want to close it? Okay. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? So moved. Okay, so we shall do the short form environmental assessment form. So number one, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? No. Will proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Will proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Will the proposed action impact existing A, public-private water supplies, B, public-private wastewater treatment utilities? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, agricultural, or aesthetic resources? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to normal resources, wetlands, or natural resources, I'm sorry, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Okay, this, we're going to check this box. If you have determined that based on the information and analysis above, any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. Lead agency, Town of Akron.
So can I just have a motion, second, and vote to formalize the negative declaration for the purposes of environmental review.
Question. There, with what's here, do I vote or not vote?
I believe that you should vote, and if the, if it turns out that he could not be counted towards the quorum and could not vote, your vote, in the affirmative or in the negative would be important, but if we don't record it, then we could potentially have.
Okay, so I vote.
So can I have a motion for the declaration, please?
I make a motion, we accept it.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, so we will move on to the 5 questions. Area variance, finding and decision. Factors considered. Whether undesirable change will be produced in character of neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties.
No.
Whether benefits sought by applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance. Whether the requested variance is substantial. Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood?
No.
Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. That's a,
Yes,
Yes,
always yes.
always say.
But you created the problem, you come in and ask for the variance.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, I guess we'll make a motion to close the public hearing, which we already did, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll turn it back over to Steve.
Before you do, can we just get the final vote regarding the variance? Whether the ZBA has determined that the benefits to the applicant do or do not outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or community.
So you want a motion for that?
Motion second and vote, yeah.
Okay, can we have a motion?
Motion. If you can accept me, I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So that's a motion to grant the area variance of 5 feet from the 15-foot required side yard setback, correct?
That's correct.
4B,
Pardon?
it's order article 4B.
I said 5 feet.
5 feet.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Jay, no new business as of tonight, right?
No new business as of tonight. There is a referral on my desk. I had one of the building inspectors touch base with the applicant, and I haven't had a chance to follow up. I don't believe that he intends to appear before the zoning board of appeal, but if he does, we'll, make sure that he gets the application materials, gets the required documents, and as a meeting set up.
Okay, thank you. So the other topic I thought would be important for us to talk about tonight is there's an effort that is being made that's, I believe, driven by the town board to look at ways to potentially streamline or make more efficient the way the zoning board and the planning boards operate. And I believe the reason for this initiative, which is being led by Nan, who's doing a number of interviews of people, is the sheer volume of work, particularly for the planning board that they're going through now, is very substantial. And they're looking for ways to simplify things. So one of the things I thought that we could do to make sure that we are being as efficient as possible with ourselves and with any referrals that we give to the planning board. Hey, Will, I just handed out a piece of paper, which I can read off to you real quickly, but basically this is the checklist that is what the zoning board should be using to ensure that an applicant has made a complete submission. And of course, if a complete submission is made, then when it's given over to the planning board, that will be much more efficient for them. There won't have to be any concerns about it being sent back or anything else. So, Will, I'll just read off this checklist to you real quick. There's 8 points. Point number 1 is that applications can be made by property owners or authorized representatives with written permission to apply. I had actually forgotten that the applicant doesn't have to be the owner of the property that's asking for the variance. Completion of the application form, including written answers to the required questions as outlined in instructions, and you'll see what that is in a moment.
Question on number 1, you say applications may be made in person. Do you mean they may be handed in person?
No, I said they may be made by property owners.
No, second
Underneath
sentence.
that.
Oh.
further.
Applications may be made in person or by mail to the above address. You mean handed in? Is that what you mean?
You can mail the application to
mail-
the town prior to the meeting
Yeah, okay,
or hand it in to Ed.
prior to the meeting, okay. It's handed in to Ed, not to JL?
Well, they're all in the same office, but Ed usually reviews it.
Don't you think we ought to be very specific who it is handed to? I only say that because then we know where it is. But that's up to the.
Well, I think the correct answer is that this checklist and the completed forms need to be turned into J. Because the way the process works is somebody goes to get something done, and Ed, you can't come before the zoning board of appeals unless someone has told you no
Right.
to do something. So the first step in the process is you go to Ed to try to get a building permit. And Ed says no, and then the applicant has to take that declined building permit, and it comes over to us along with everything that's on this checklist. So we should be an applicant should be turning all of this into J.
So I would say that that's accurate representation of what the current process has been. I would maybe reserve comment on whether that's what is required or whether that's how it should be done according to the zone.
Okay, well, let's go back and get that comment, Jay, because the second part of what I wanted to do is after going through the checklist, I wanted to ask everybody for your opinion if there were any recommendations that people had to streamline and quicken the process. And if you've got one, Jay, we ought to capture it and we ought to endorse it, and endorse your ideas. I happen to be talking to Nan tomorrow, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get this done tonight, so.
Do you have an extra one of those? I'll drop it off to Ronnie. or
Okay.
Elizabeth,
That'd be great.
and I'll take them these off.
Thank you very much.
So are we going to details, comment now? Or you want?
No, yeah, I'm gonna go through this first and then we'll. I'm assuming Jay's feeling comfortable doing that, so. So Will, number 3 is submission of 2 copies of the survey map or detailed plot plan showing the proposed building and all existing buildings with precise measurements of the change and dimensions from the property line and structures. The 4th is a completed agricultural data statement. 5th is the short environmental assessment form. 6, the detailed explanation of why the variance is required, answering the questions raised by the requirements of such a permit. 7, a copy of any permit, denial of permit or order issued by the building inspector or the CEO. It's Ed. And then lastly, payment of a non-refundable fee. I won't read the rest of that paragraph. So unless we decide to make any changes to this, and we may well, so let's discuss it. But my idea is that this gets stapled to the top or attached to the top of a submission package that comes before us. And the first thing we do as a board is go through the package, make sure it's complete. So we can avoid some hopefully any rework.
So I would state that ultimately Nan is reviewing the entire process. Someone has to make a determination that the application is complete before it goes to the board. And I believe that she will probably make a recommendation on who should be making that determination, whether it's an application that's getting referred to the planning board or whether it's a variance that's being directed to the ZBA. But this is certainly a helpful document, and I would encourage you to give it to Nan when you have your conversation with her tomorrow. And you know,
Who do you think should do it, Jay?
I think that the zoning law has a contemplation of who should do it, and I believe that unless the zoning law is changed, that person should be doing it.
Okay.
That's reviewing the application, correct?
For completeness.
For completeness. I'm just, as I have said to you, I dot my i's and cross my
Yep.
t's. I think in number 1, that we ought to be very specific who gets this. Now, it may say on the application, I don't know what it says, it may say handed into the clerk. But I think that it should specify whether it's gonna go to Ed or it's gonna go to JL. I just feel that people need that direction. I leave it up to you if you feel that.
I mean, we have to start somewhere. Rome wasn't built in a day. You know, it can be me, it can be Ed, but we'll start with someone. And then when Nan comes back with recommendations or as maybe the goals change within the town, it could be revised.
Good. So for now, what I envision would be that the package would go to you, Jay, along with the denial from Ed, because you're the one who's got all the forms and everything for people. And if we decide to change that,
Yes, JL, you're not doing the review. You're really just getting the package. And JL doesn't necessarily have to put in Ed's comment because the applicant would have gotten a written comment. Am I correct? Would that be the applicant's responsibility as far as I'm concerned?
Can you clarify your question?
maybe I can help you. When you put in a request to Ed that you know is going to be denied, because so in this case, knowing that the the zoning law would not allow the shed to be as close to the property line. It's actually, there's a place in the application that you give to Ed that he turns down, where you actually write out that explanation. And so that would be part of what comes over to,
Okay,
To
so
JL.
Ed has not given the applicant an official written denial. Do I understand that correctly?
no, he would,
He would.
he would.
So that's the applicant's responsibility to put that in the application. Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, JL is not doing anything but collecting this. And then he would hand it to Nan or whoever is going to review it. And once it's reviewed, it's either sent back to the applicant to finish or it goes to the zoning board of appeals. Do I
Well-
have that correct?
Well, Nan's not gonna.
no, Nan's not gonna review.
Well, whoever's going to
It's
do
only
it,
either gonna be Jay or Ed.
and that's what it is at this point.
Yeah, but we're not gonna pay Nan to review simple stuff like this. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
We're not making that decision at this point. I'm just trying to get the procedure correct. Whoever, or JL does not do any more at this point, but collect it. If she is assigned the job of reviewing it, then it's her job or it's Fred's job.
That's,
I'm sorry, not Fred's job.
that's
Ed.
not,
Ed.
I do some review, Ed does some review, with the application that was just before the ZBA. The planning board did some review, and a few things were missed by multiple people, so ultimately someone has to be, you know, the actual person that's
Yes.
responsible.
So would they be giving that job to you, or would they want somebody maybe from the ZBA that had time that you could come in and you could show, like, I have time, I could come in, if you showed me, I could go through stuff like that. Is that what you're looking for, something like that?
You're not being paid, you should,
Right.
like, you're a volunteer,
Yeah,
we appreciate your service, but, you know, we should have things. Or the people that are employed by the
Right.
town of Bangor should be able to get things to the point where
then they come to the
everybody
boards.
can make
Right,
an informed decision.
okay.
So just to understand the process, JL, at some point in the near future, the town is going to decide who is going to do the review to see the application is correct. Now you currently do it or Ed currently does it. It may be you, but it may be somebody else. Am I correct in understanding what's going forward or am I incorrect?
I would say that it may not come as a explicit recommendation, but it will be clarified how the process
Okay,
should work and ways to improve the existing process,
okay.
which is where multiple parties weigh in on the same thing, and it just kind of goes around.
Okay, I understand.
One of the other things that, there's a couple, but one other thing that came up was an idea to establish a fixed meeting night for the ZBA on a monthly basis, just like the planning board does. So, Will, did you hear that?
Yes, I did. I did. Which part are you talking about? The planned meeting night or the list that you were talking about?
I had gone from the list and thank you for that clarification to the plan to meet the fixed meeting night. I wanted to get this board's opinion on whether or not you thought that was a good idea, a bad idea, or you don't care.
I think it's a great idea. This way I know I leave the first Monday of the month free. I
But is
can
that
plan
if we
it.
have business?
Yes, yeah,
If we have
Yeah,
business,
yeah,
it's not every month.
right, if we don't have,
But we,
Yeah, no.
you know that on January 1st, the first Monday in January or the first Monday in March, you know, if somebody says, Fred, let's go out for dinner that Monday, you say, "Well, we might have a meeting." makes it easier for me to plan anyway.
We always usually do it on a Monday anyway, as a rule.
Yeah, I think it usually works out as a Monday.
Usually.
Okay, Will, what do you think?
Well, the only issue with that is, let's just say if an applicant is rejected and we want to hurry up and try to get it produced before the planning board meeting, or, so in other words, if we miss it, they have to wait another whole month to get, so I understand that makes sense to do a plan thing. But it just, there might be times where that extends it a little bit.
We can make that flexible. It doesn't have to be set in stone. I mean,
Yeah, we
if
could
we
do
had,
like we could do a first Monday of every month. And then if something came up, we could do a different Monday or something.
Yeah, or if
Because we've done a
something-
different day of the week
yeah,
sometimes.
if everybody got together and said, well, you can't be here and you can't be here, and then well, we could do, what's the difference if we do it Thursday and Monday if everybody can do it on Thursday? It doesn't matter.
JL, how much time did you spend trying to schedule this one?
It depends on what exactly you count as attempting to schedule, but, I think the benefit for me personally, in terms of, doing my job as the clerk, would be, I could point to a meeting date and I could point to a deadline for submission.
Yeah,
And then the benefit maybe for the applicant that some folks are stating with not having a set meeting date is it allows them to go through the process more quickly. I ultimately would say that folks are maybe kind of responsible for doing things correctly. And the planning board and ZBA should make sure that they're following the zoning law. So sometimes going through the process quickly results in errors that maybe could be avoided if we said, you don't have what you need right now. The next deadline for submission is, or being able to say that, and then maybe the applicant working with me to see if the ZBA could meet on a different date.
is there a certain night of the week or time of the month that's better for you with all your other meetings and things?
Mondays or Fridays would likely be best.
Fridays, no Fridays.
Mondays, Thursdays, or Fridays would be best at this point, as long as the ZBA meeting doesn't always conflict with a town board meeting or planning board meeting on Thursday.
So a Monday would be good then for you.
Or a third, like the second Thursday?
Correct. And that might work out well with the planning board schedule as well, because, you have a referral going to them on the second Thursday, have a chance for them to review it on the second or the first Thursday following, and then get a response back.
So let's assume there's a problem on the first Thursday. And so the applicant would come into you on Saturday and you would work with him on Saturday and you would be able to work with him on Wednesday. And then if we were to see it that following day, we would not have had a chance to really look at it. So it seems to me that either the fourth Thursday or maybe the second or third Monday, and we could work that out. But I think at this point, we're really just trying to think of, do we want to have a set day or not? And JL made a good comment about if we set it once a month, the applicant has an incentive to get everything straight.
Yeah, my initial reaction was the same as Will's. But I also see the value of a fixed date. One that allows us to, assuming things go well for the applicant, to then within a week get that to the planning board for their review. So it won't slow down the process, and then if we decide for some reason that we want to move the date for an applicant, because there's no reason we can't have that discussion. Would that be a fair summary for me to
That's right.
represent
I think that sounds good.
demand tomorrow?
What do you
January.
think?
I mean, ever since I've been on this board, well, it used to be once a month, period. So when I got on the board, I said, why are we making people wait a whole month?
Right.
If you have all your ducks in a row, our mission is to get your shed or your house site or whatever you're in here for done as fast as possible within the time constraints that we have. Because all that does is it holds up everybody.
Mhm.
So there's no reason to, at that time, that was Leah Wilcox. She goes, that makes sense. I said, what's the difference if we come out next month on a Thursday or 2 Thursdays from now? Doesn't matter, we still gotta come. So if everybody can get here, let's get it done.
I think the question, your word was, if you have all your ducks in a row. And I
That's
agree.
correct.
All the ducks in a row, we can do it very quickly.
Yeah,
If,
we're not saying that we should, I'm just saying that if we do, we shouldn't wait until, because next month is our Monday. When he's ready, we should be ready. And if we don't have to meet on that Monday, then we stay home. That's what I see it.
Okay, good.
we have 2 views, talk it over with them.
All right.
I'd like to get back to this because I have 2 questions. Okay, on number 3, submission of 2 copies of the survey map or detailed plot plan showing the proposed building. Now, the last month we got a plot plan and the applicant felt that it was detailed enough for us to go through it, and it really wasn't. So I'm against saying a detailed plot plan because that's up to the applicant's impression or thoughts or whatever. I would like a survey map showing the proposed building and stuff. I'm all for that. So I would take out detailed plot plan unless we could specify more specifically what that is.
But what that does is that makes every applicant have to hire a surveyor.
Right, not
That's
everybody
right.
has,
I
but
don't-
not everybody has.
That's not-
No.
That's not
So
right.
what it does is leave up to the person who is reviewing this application. That person has to be somebody who is able to say and is
But-
strong enough that this is an okay detailed plot plan,
But I don't understand, what was your problem with his map?
a detailed plot plan.
Yeah, well, I don't understand.
Because that'd be like you go out back there with your tape measure and measure
Yeah.
from there to here, and you're saying it's 5 feet, and she's not gonna take your word for it. She wants a surveyor to come out and survey.
But I'm
on
asking
that.
her what was wrong. I didn't understand what was wrong with his map because I understood his map.
Yeah, no,
So
I know.
that's why I was asking, look,
I felt that he had, if you remember, we questioned, there was an alleyway there. It looked like an alleyway. He said, no, those were just trees. His map, if it was detailed plot, should have said trees. He didn't really detail what it was. He did have numbers.
yeah,
He did have numbers. But in terms of looking at that whole map, and we sent it to the planning board to look at, and that was what they said. They told him to go get a survey. They looked at that detailed plot that we accepted and they said, we don't understand, we don't feel this is adequate.
I don't know if they said survey. I think they just said they needed a better detailed drawing.
Yes, and in questioning, if I remember correctly, and Jay, you could correct me on this too. I think when there was question and discussion, and he didn't quite understand it because he thought it was a detailed map. And I think at the end, John said something about a survey. I may be wrong, my memory's not that great. I'm okay, I bring it up as a discussion, it's up to what you feel is adequate.
Well,
In the past, we used to go out as board members and look at it.
We can always go to this, we're always welcome to go and look at places.
Yeah,
if
we
don't-
always used to do that in the past. We would, we would go over there and look, so you would take this handwritten drawing or whatever he gave you and go over there and look.
Yeah,
So
because
you would
actually,
get it
when-
beforehand and go look before the meeting, or?
We
you would-
used to do it before the meeting.
before you would get-
when we
So,
have.
so
the
because
last
if I
meeting-
give you this piece of paper, you have no idea what you're looking at.
Right.
I agree.
So we used to go over there before the meeting, so that if there was a question and they said, well, you know where the cherry tree is, right? And he goes, yup, I was over there. And that's exactly what it is. But if you look at this, everybody does the same thing. They sit here and they'll go like this and they'll go like that. You understand that? Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been here a long time. I've seen it all.
when we did Latin's, I actually drove by there, because I hadn't been by there for a while, they're up the road from me. So I drove by to get a view of what the house was looking like, then I understood everything, so.
Yes, I had gone by earlier, but I did not have a map.
Well, this, so two things about this, interesting conversation I'll ask Nan about. If the law says 2 copies of a survey map or detailed plot plan, does the planning board have the authority to demand a survey? If the law says,
Right.
our regulations say a detailed plot plan is
That's where you
acceptable.
got that from? Did you get that from our zoning law?
This is in the zoning law.
Okay,
We're,
okay.
yeah, we're
Yeah,
not.
okay, yeah, okay, that's interesting, yes.
So I'll have to ask Nan about that, because one might argue, I don't need to do that. It's.
Can you imagine paying a surveyor $2,000 to come and look at that? That's wrong.
He did, I don't know what he did, but he does have, look like a surveyor's plan here.
No, but I'm just saying, for us to say that you have to get a surveyor,
Well, you
Yeah.
might not always be able to get a surveyor right in. I know
Yes.
someone who wants their property surveyed. And they asked about it in the summertime, and the surveyor said he would come, but not till it got colder, like
Yeah.
now, because of the ticks and everything.
yeah, the
So it
checks
took
and
them,
everything else.
took them
but it's
months to
not
get
only-
somebody to
yeah,
come.
But it's the expense of it,
Right.
Yes,
you know.
I'm not sure that this young man needed a survey map, he just needed it to be a more accurate.
No, I agree with
But
that.
that's a very good question, if it's in the law, what is acceptable?
Yeah. What's acceptable in terms of going over and above,
Right,
requiring him to submit I shouldn't say that, any applicant. And I don't know what the answer is, because I can see both sides of this, the detailed plot plan
The way I see it,
in the,
you want to treat the people like you would want to be treated if you came in,
Right.
is what my motto is. If you were standing on the other side of that table.
Yeah.
How would you feel if the guy says, you need this, and this?
Yeah.
And you say, it's unreasonable.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the law says. But that's not right. You know what I
well,
mean?
then the law may have to be changed, but.
Well, absolutely. But I'm just saying, everybody. You have to treat the people the way you'd want to be treated if you were there.
Yeah.
So what I always looked at it.
I've been to meetings before and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe the way that the person in charge was speaking to the people that had come before them. I was shocked.
I was on the planning board in the eighties, when we used to leave the house at 7:20 and be back home at 7:50.
so, all right, so I'll have a discussion with,
We can finish that, but I have
yeah,
more.
so I'll have a discussion with Nan about a couple of things. One, the appropriateness of a detailed plot plan, which may lead right back to who's ever going to be responsible for reviewing for completeness. And then secondly, I will ask her about what is the authority of the board to ask for something over and above what is in the current regulations, particularly if there's a financial, implication to it.
So I would make a couple of points of clarification that, the abbreviated site plan review before the planning board also does not require a survey. There was an applicant who prepared several site plans, that were rejected by the planning. The planning board advised me to seek counsel, so to seek a legal opinion on what would be required. The legal opinion basically came back. A survey map was not required for abbreviated site plan review, but there still had to be certain standards, so it had to be a certain quality. So I would say that what was just reviewed by the planning board and the ZBA regarding this application that was previously before the board that was just voted on is not really an actual survey map. So it's lines that the applicant drew on the survey map, and the applicant was able to locate an existing survey. Oftentimes when land is subdivided or sold as part of those transactions, well, for a subdivision, it needs surveyed as a requirement so that it can be filed. So it's oftentimes easy to track down something that has some features on the map. I will state that it is illegal to alter a map with a surveyor's stamp.
Oh,
So sometimes they'll have to reach out to the surveyor and ask for a copy that doesn't have a seal on it. But there are ways to locate something, and even using parcel access, you can find something that has some measurements or some features to create the detailed plot plan.
So that is,
So it doesn't,
it seems like you helped this young man go to find the survey map that he could draw on.
he
And so
ultimately
it kind of,
located-
if a survey map exists, you're saying that with certain caveats, that if a survey map exists on parcel access, I went up to Hudson and got a survey map, then they could do a more accurate drawing than what that young man had handed in first. And that's.
So I would say that there's ways to get a quality submission that doesn't require an applicant to hire a surveyor for a small project or a small variance. But if the variance, because the ZBA doesn't just review area variances, it would also review zoning law interpretations and denials, appeals from the zoning enforcement officer. So there are some projects that the ZBA could potentially review that may require far more detail than was just presented. So it's kind of a case by case basis. And it's probably important to have that flexibility.
Okay.
I had some more comments.
Okay.
Number 5, a completed short environmental assessment form. That is from the zoning law.
Everything that's on here,
Yeah,
this,
okay.
this is in the regulation.
Okay, okay. Could we, let's suppose that we've gotten something because it's in the area of an environmentally sensitive area. Could we ask for a regular environmental assessment, a full environmental? We can,
We can ask for it, but I mean,
he doesn't have to do
it's,
it.
it's not required.
Required, okay. And we already discussed that one, we already discussed that, so I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or thoughts? Jay, anything else that you've heard or seen in any of the emails that are going around about we should bring up here to get feedback on? Good luck with the minutes tonight.
I will, well, I'll just, Phil got the recording, so I'll just, reference it and put the minutes, the link in the minutes. I would say in response to your answer, the point of clarification that I would make is that the town of Akron recently adopted a type 1 list. So I don't believe that any of those type 1 actions would be reviewed exclusively by the ZBA, but they may be reviewed by the planning board and referred to the ZBA because of a small setback issue, or there may be a setback issue component that would first go to the ZBA. So in some cases, full, not a full EAF, but a long form on the secret.
So just keep me honest here with this, Jay, but just for everybody's edification about what the type 1 list is. So there's within the zoning law, there is a list of very specific types of businesses, car washes, and that kind of thing, for example, that do require a long form to be done, and that was recently updated. And some other new businesses that we didn't have before. So that's what Jay is referring to.
There could be like a setback issue on one of the proposals, but I don't believe there would be anything that would be exclusively reviewed by the ZBA.
Okay, can we go home? All right, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you for your feedback. The close. Second. All right, thank you. Thank you.